in your mind when you actually see the way a loco runs. So let's say if we've already identified that the loco doesn't have enough pickups on it during the mechanism section, you might see that manifest in the performance section by the fact that the loco keeps cutting out and that sort of thing. But I assure you that I, honest to God, test and film the locos running before I look at the mechanism.
You tell him, Sam.
You don't have to believe me, I don't care if you don't believe me, but that's what I do, and there is evidence of that in certain videos. I think it was the Caledonian 812, the brake rigging broke when I was doing the mechanism.
No, Google fucking ad services. Right.
Section, and you can
direct
see
all your hate mail at me,
there
everybody. Tosspots. Right.
There during the performance test, and it's not there after the
concept of editing.
So they basically saying that because you
can't get their heads around it.
Have the performance second.
Yes.
And the mechanism
well, an ugly fucking geezer there is down in the bottom half of this. He can't even take a picture of a train moving at 100 miles an hour.
There exists a process called editing, and because I'm not great at delivering properly, as you can see,
politely to all ages and audiences, I'm certainly not capable of that. I call a fucking spade a spade.
Edited. I only use one camera as well, so when you see all the different camera angles and such, that is me retaking and redoing things from different angles.
Yes.
So it all comes together. And like I say, I think it makes sense for a viewer to see the mechanism before we see the performance. That's why that appears first in the video. But that is.
I think it makes sense for you to tell the viewer, whatever you bloody like. They can turn off at any time. That's the truth of it. Opinionated little. You got 500 locos. Well, you're a collector. If you've managed to establish a profession whilst you're collecting, even better. Jeepers. 10 years, 50 dollars a loco a week for outstanding.
Not evidence that that is the filming order. That is not the case. And like I say, if you look, you will see the evidence. I film the performance first. Believe it or not, that
yeah,
is the fact.
you also tend to labour the facts sometimes, and I'll tell you something you also do, is you're worried about £5 here and there. You know, when you do the retail price comparison in the shop, it's £4 cheaper because it comes from Cornwall or something. Just forget it, mate.
Swapping motors,
right, we need some ball parts.
And doing all of that stuff, rewiring locos. Bear in mind, I'm not doing anything like that when I film a review. All I'm doing is taking off covers, removing bodies, filming them, putting them back together as I found them. It's not complicated. It might be for some people. I assure you, I can.
Yeah, they've got a version of taking their model apart.
I do it every day. Was there any more for that from that person?
I do the same with my chainsaw. Take it apart and put it back together again. You know, I mean, it's like part of the maintenance of the job.
Is a conversation between a few people. So I'm going to read you the initial comment and then the reply.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right,
so,
pay attention.
I know you probably both know this and despise the fellow, but Sam, of Sam's Trains YouTube fame, built a Gladstone using 3D printing for as much as possible. Everything except wheels and motor, and you do yourself a worse favour than watching those videos. Fair enough comment.
Okay, that's
the response. Nice. I tried to watch a minute of it and can't stand the guy. Immature and annoying, sorry.
Okay.
Straight to the point.
Yeah. Well, that's absolutely fine. I don't expect to be liked by everybody, and yeah, I mean, it's not a very nice thing to say. I don't think I would have said that online about somebody, but it is fair enough. And if you feel that way...
No, okay, well, your view on if you feel that way is down to you to vocalise in a minute. But credit where effort has been made, and credit when credit is due. Well, what other rules are you going to put in? I just can't believe, really, what I'm hearing. But I'm full of nothing but admiration for you, young man.
Yeah, thank you for your honesty.
You know, finding someone annoying is their own opinion, if they find your content annoying, but
yeah.
I would argue immature.
I suppose the Gladstone videos were quite technical, really. They did come from quite a lot of research and a lot of hard work and design work and that. There are a lot of videos of mine that you could say were immature, but I'm surprised that they would pick that one out. It was quite technical, quite an advanced project. I'm not a professional builder by any stretch, have said there are.
So now what are we talking about here then? We're talking about envy of people who spent hundreds of pounds in value on a locomotive, and they haven't addressed the fundamental question of, could it be done more cost effectively? And of more interest to me as a modeler, because I'm picking up 21st century modeling skills rather than 19th century fabrication skills. The philosophy of railway modelling is fascinating to me. I made a video earlier on tonight which was as simple. What kind of garden railway do you want to build? In which I tried to address that question. It's an ongoing question if you're building a model railway. Why am I doing this? What am I doing it for? Who am I doing it for? Am I doing it for my own benefit or for community benefit? Am I doing it for peace of mind or to stretch my mind? You know, FFS is what I'm about to type. Except if I expletive it on Facebook, you get into trouble. So on YouTube, you get into trouble. So stick with it. But the occasional slip, you bang your hand on with a nail, you expect to let rip, don't you? Anybody who normality these days? I don't know.
Far more videos if you were going to single them out as immature than...
Yeah, I think going for something like an April Fool's video or something where you're just messing around.
Yeah, good point. But he made it as much as he could with the 3D printer. Well, I don't see other people doing that. I know that other people are doing it. I don't see him spelling out how to do it. But what does it matter? I choose to watch him. He's worth following.
Well, that is immature. And if you can't stand the April Fool's videos, then I get it.
Again, a lot of these are coming from the same forum, which I'm not going to name, but
okay.
Use your imagination.
We all know the one.
You are spot on about Sam's trains. He just annoys me calling track on carpet and layout. There's some very good channels that show the hobby to a very high standard.
Yeah, well, that's true, yeah.
Well, a layout is a layout and a model is a model. What is the problem? Can I make a suggestion, though? Because obviously, in a sense, I want you to maximize your YouTube presence, revenue, and whatever, because I love to see people succeed. Get a baseboard. You got an N and a... I've seen it. It must be easy enough to get an oval. You've got to put a few points on so that the stuff can be tested moving across point work. But I get confused. It's never really occurred to me that you run the entire thing on the carpet all the time. And if you do... Anyway, the owl's hooting in the background here. I can't... My question at the moment is, do I want to run a railway at night? And what kind of railway do I want to run at night? It'd be fun, wouldn't it? I think I'm trying to run a model railway by... I am modelling a railway because... I'm trying to get inside the head of the people who built them, and the people who drove locomotives on them, and the people who signalled on them, and the people who were guards, and the people who travelled, and the animals they passed by, and the horses that worked the railways as much as the engines, and the sense of historicity in the passage of time. I'm fascinated by the concept of scale speed. That's to say, how much do you anchor back in terms of moving forward if you're reducing 1 to 78 or 1 to whatever. And I think I'm going up a gauge because there's no way I'm prepared to model with my fingers this size. Broad gauge alongside standard gauge UK track in 1840 or whenever they started putting in. I don't even know the date of that. So you see, I'm determining continuously what period in history I'm actually interested in trying to model. Different sections for different But scale speed and reducing old school locomotives to the concept of powerhouses that are moving around the countryside in a countryside that has no other such power. That I am finding increasingly stimulating, in the sense that, can you imagine setting out from Paddington at night time going towards Cornwall? The track might be clear for many miles in front of you, but you've got a hell of a long journey doing that. Open engine top and all the rest. I don't know. I don't even know the timetable necessarily at 18 whatever, but I'm sure they ran a few trains at night. Certainly there was running trains at night before very long. Do you hear that, Al? Another reason I'm doing it is because I am fascinated by electricity, and I do want to power my set of trains or model railway by the sun, but I also want to try to get involved with live steam. And today the scales of been lifted from my eyes, because I realise I can actually run live steam as on compressed air. So I showed you some wires on the ground outside, and I'm thinking, this is how I'm going to switch this and switch that and switch on this and that and all sorts of things like that. But actually towing around or compressing air and putting it through a steam engine in order to drive people about and produce back some electricity when the sun's not shining. Pretty interesting, really, I think. I mean, I'm certainly interested. How much more energy is in compressed air at 150? Less energy is in compressed air at 130, that being the limit of my machine at the moment, PSI, and superheated steam. And another way of looking at this is, how on earth would I engineer superheated steam? I saw it today coming out of a jet at a rate that I thought was extremely respectable for a device at the cost of a live steam model. Now, you may say, well, if you wanted to build a kettle, you could do that. Yes, but that's not superheated steam. And that's not superheated steam from a boiler with a certificate and, can be fired up within 20 minutes. So I do think I need I think there's a lot to be said for stepping back from whatever criticism you got of anybody else doing anything and saying, oh, I'll listen to what they got to say. I mean, it's one thing to see on Facebook Marketplace a live steam model. It's another thing altogether to put it in the back of your car and come home with it and think, what do I do next? I'd say that's a big step. I'd say that's an enormous step. But, well, I made a few videos today of me and Steve. Firing up a GWR 042 Pannier tank in the Bridget class called Dorothy. Well, like Saturday, I didn't know I was going to be doing that, and it's only Tuesday.